I left before dawn. Didn't tell a soul. Didn't leave a note. I locked the house, tucked the keys under the mat, and walked to the garage with the bag slung over my shoulder like some slow-motion version of a kid running away. Only I wasn't running. I was following. The Dart was waiting, same as always, dignified in its rust, regal in its silence. It didn't purr this time. No magical hum or spectral whir. Just the soft click of the door opening and the quiet welcome of worn leather as I slid behind the wheel. No key. Didn't need one. I touched the wheel. The engine started like it knew where we were going before I did. The first few miles were ordinary. Farm roads. Cornfields. Gas stations that still used analog dials. A sleepy Midwest wrapped in morning fog. But the silence inside the car, it wasn't empty. It was full. Like the space between radio stations when you know something's just beyond your reach. I kept expecting the radio to click on. For his voice to come through again. But it didn't. Instead, the glove box rattled. I reached over and opened it. There was something new inside. A tape. Old Maxell, the kind Dad used to record over and over. A label in blue pen, smeared by time. Mix, Waltz Drive. I smiled. Slid it into the cassette deck. Click. Hiss. Then music. Ventura Highway by America. I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because it was him. His rhythm. His taste. The kind of song he'd hum to himself while tightening bolts or chasing a dream in his head. The road rolled on. And with every mile, I felt something strange happening. Not just to the car. To me. About 2 hours in, somewhere just outside St. Louis, I saw the first one. It was faint, just a flicker in the rearview. A passenger that wasn't there. A man's shadow in the seat behind me, just for a second. I turned, heart pounding, and of course it was empty. But the air changed. It smelled like his aftershave again. Brute. Cheap. Comforting. And I knew. He wasn't riding with me. He was the car. The bolts. The belts. The seat that creaked in rhythm with my breathing. Somehow, he'd folded himself into this machine. Or maybe his grief had. The sorrow he never said out loud. The guilt. The love. It was all in the engine, the metal, the hum. The Dart wasn't haunted. It was inhabited. And as I drove, the world outside began to echo him back. I stopped at a gas station on Route 66 just past Rolla, Missouri. Old, cracked pumps. A bell that rang when you pulled in. The kind of place time forgot. An old man sat on a stool near the door, smoking a pipe that smelled like cinnamon. He looked up at me with these watery eyes and said, "That Dart yours?" I nodded. He squinted, stood slowly, and limped over to it. Ran his fingers along the hood like he was touching a photo from his past. "Haven't seen one in years. Clean lines. You keep her running yourself?" I hesitated. "No," I said. "She runs herself." He laughed. "Wouldn't be the first time. Cars like this, they remember things." I stared at him. "What kind of things?" He shrugged. "Depends who drove 'em. Some carry joy. Some carry pain. All of them carry ghosts." He tapped the hood twice, soft. "Where you headed?" "Elko," I said before I even thought. He froze. "Nevada?" "Yeah. You talking his route?" I blinked. "What?" But he was already walking back to his stool, pipe glowing in the shadows. Back on the road, the music changed. Not the tape. The feeling. A song came on I didn't recognize. Just a soft acoustic guitar, no vocals. And suddenly, the world around me shifted. For a few seconds, it wasn't 2025 anymore. The highway signs aged. The paint on the road blurred. I passed a billboard for a soda that hadn't existed since the 80s. And the cars coming the other way? Boxy. Old. Familiar. Time, I realized, was bending. Not violently. Not in some sci-fi way. Just gently. like memory bleeding into the present. And it wasn't the world changing. It was me. Or maybe the car was showing me the road he remembered. The one he should have taken. Each mile wasn't just distance. It was confession. That night, I pulled into a dusty motel in Tulsa. Same one circled on the map. It looked just like his notes said. Pull, cable, quiet. The clerk didn't blink when I gave his name instead of mine. Walter Davis. She just smiled, handed me a key. Room 7. I stood outside the room for a long time before unlocking the door. Inside, it was just a room. But the air was heavy. Like he'd been there. Or almost had. On the nightstand, another Polaroid. Of him. Sitting on the edge of the same bed. Younger. Tired. Smiling small. On the back, scribbled in his hand. Almost turned back. Glad I didn't. I sat on that same bed. Looked around that room like it could answer questions I hadn't dared ask since I was a boy. And I cried. Quietly. Not like the night I heard him in the garage. Not shattered. Just releasing. And somewhere, beneath the motel hum, I swore I heard the car outside. Breathing. I didn't sleep much that night in Tulsa. Not because of the bed, it was fine. Not because of the room, clean, quiet, just like the map had promised. It was the weight. That invisible heaviness that comes when you know you're standing exactly where someone once stood, and maybe where they lost something. Or almost did. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the creak of the pipes, the flicker of a dying neon vacancy sign outside the window. And I couldn't stop looking at that Polaroid. Him. Sitting in the same spot I was. Back slouched. Eyes soft. Smile that didn't quite reach. I didn't know if the picture was real. Wasn't sure it mattered. It was true. And that felt more important. I left just before sunrise. The Dart started the second I touched the wheel, like it had been dozing, not sleeping. The tape from yesterday was gone. In its place, a new one. This label said, Sidetracks. I pressed play. Father and Son, by Cat Stevens filled the cabin. The kind of song you don't sing along with. You just feel. I pulled out of Tulsa and headed west, like the map said. But the Dart had other ideas. I missed my turn. Didn't mean to. Didn't notice it until I was 20 miles off track. The highway had become a narrow 2-lane road slicing through empty farmland. The kind of road you only take if you're trying to disappear. I reached for the map to double-check the route. But it wasn't in the glove box anymore. In its place, a photograph. I froze. It was my mother. Pregnant. Standing beside the Dart, hand on her belly. The same motel in the background. She was looking away from the camera, towards something I couldn't see, but her face, it was scared. No smile. Just a storm behind the eyes. On the back. Ruth didn't want to keep driving. Neither did I. I swallowed hard. This wasn't just a road trip. It was a reconstruction. Of a fracture. A choice. A moment in time when everything could have gone the other way. And maybe, it almost did. The road led me to a town called Chandler. One of those forgotten dots on the map where the gas is still cheap and the people still nod at strangers. The Dart seemed to know where it was going. I followed. Down a side street. Past the church. A shuttered diner. An old park with a rusted swing set. Then, it turned itself. I swear to God, the wheel moved in my hands. Not yanked. Just guided. Onto a gravel road I never would have noticed. At the end of it, a house. Small. Sagging. Porch half collapsed. But there was something sacred about it. Like the bones of it remembered being loved. The Dart idled in front. Waiting. I got out. Grass crunched under my boots. The air smelled like dust and old tobacco. I stepped up to the porch and reached for the door. It opened. By itself. And there he was. But not the version I knew. Not the man who buttered my toast in silence, or cried in the dark garage. This version of him was younger. full-bearded. Shirt sleeves rolled up, chest heaving like he'd just come in from fixing something that wouldn't stay fixed. He looked right at me. Didn't speak. Just studied me like I was the ghost. And maybe in that place I was. Dad? I said, barely above a whisper. He didn't flinch. Didn't nod. He turned and walked inside. I followed. The house was frozen in time. Wallpaper peeling. Couch springs exposed. A dusty ashtray full of half-smoked cigarettes. A baby's onesie draped over the back of a chair. She was here, I realized. My mother. Pregnant. Angry. Afraid. Maybe this was where they paused. Where they almost stopped driving. He stood at the window, looking out. You ever wonder, he said, voice low, hoarse, what it'd be like if you could step outside your choices? I didn't answer. I sat right here, he went on. The day we almost turned around. Told myself it'd be better. Safer. That maybe we could just go back. Find jobs. Make it work. He turned. His eyes weren't angry. They were haunted. But the going back was just as broken as the going forward. I stepped closer. I could smell oil on his hands. What stopped you? I asked. He looked past me. Out the door. Then, softly. You. The air changed. The room blurred. And suddenly I was standing in the house alone. No young Walter. No ghost. Just silence. I stepped outside. The Dart was still idling. I climbed in. And the road pulled me back in. As I drove, the mirror flickered. Not the rear view, the side mirror. It showed not what was behind me, but who I could have been. A man who never took this trip. A man who stayed bitter. A man who never forgave the silence. He looked just like me. Only older. Colder. Alone. That night I stopped at a roadside lodge in Texas. No ghost there. Just wind. But when I opened the trunk of the Dart to grab my bag, there was something new inside. A toolbox. His. With my name scratched into the underside of the lid. Beneath it, a note. Fix what I couldn't. Keep driving. You don't understand what emptiness is until you cross into the desert at night. Not just a lack of people. Not just silence. It's a kind of exposure. Like the sky is too big, and the ground too old, and whatever you are, your past, your regrets, your name, starts to come apart under the stars. I passed Amarillo around midnight. Didn't stop. The Dart seemed to know better. She hummed low, headlights cutting through miles of nothing, engines steady like a heartbeat. Like his heartbeat, maybe. Sometimes I looked at the seat beside me and thought I saw the outline of his arm on the window. Just a shadow. Just a shape. But sometimes I swear, I heard breathing. It started to rain outside Tucumcari. Not hard. Just enough to smear the windshield with memories. That's when the radio came alive again. Not music this time. A voice. His. Not the broken man from the garage. Not the weary young dreamer from Chandler. This was another Walter. Calm. Certain. Like he'd been waiting for just the right mouth to speak. You know what I was really crying about that night? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. It wasn't the money. Wasn't even the car. It was time. I'd run out of it. Not the clock kind. The chance kind. He paused. The rain thudded lightly against the windshield. The desert beyond blurred to black. You were asleep. 8 years old, and already too much like me. Quiet. Always watching. I wanted to fix things before you noticed they were broken. But you already knew. I gripped the wheel tighter. I didn't realize I was crying until I tasted salt. Around 2 a.m., I saw lights ahead. A diner. In the middle of nowhere. No town. No gas station. Just a slouching building in the desert fog, flickering neon buzzing like a dying star. Evelyn's, it said. I almost drove past it. But the Dart slowed on its own. Turned gently into the gravel lot. Parked itself. and went silent. Not off. Just waiting. Inside was warmer than it should have been. The kind of warmth that feels borrowed. A jukebox played something old and gentle, Patsy Cline maybe. A few tables. Empty booths. Except one. Back corner. A man sat there, staring into a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. I knew it was him. Not a ghost. Not a hallucination. Just him. A version of Walter, dressed in a flannel I remembered from when I was 10. Hair grayer than it should have been. But his eyes the same. He looked up when I walked in. Nodded like he'd been expecting me. I didn't sit right away. Didn't speak. I just looked at him. And he looked at me. Not like a father looks at a son, but like a man looks at his echo. "Coffee?" he asked. His voice was dry. Tired. "Sure," I said. I sat. We didn't talk for a while. The waitress never came. The world outside the diner didn't move. Finally, he spoke. "I should have told you I was scared." I didn't reply. "You were a kid. What good would that have done you, hearing your old man say he didn't know how to be one?" His eyes locked on mine. "But I think not saying it did more harm." I nodded. Couldn't speak. He kept going. "I kept thinking if I fixed the car, maybe I could fix myself. Get back the pieces I dropped along the road. But I never did. I just kept braking." He looked down at the table. Rubbed a thumb along a deep scratch in the formica, like it meant something. "You ever wonder why the car started?" I nodded. He smiled. "Because it remembered you. Not me. I left more of myself in that garage than in our conversations. But you saw me. Even when I didn't want to be seen." The jukebox clicked off. And the silence in that diner felt like church. "You know, I didn't believe in anything for a long time. Not God. Not fate. Not redemption." He looked out the window. "But this road you're on." He looked back. "This feels like grace." I blinked, and he was gone. The booth was empty. The cup still warm. My reflection in the window stared back, older. Still crying. But something had shifted. Not resolved. Just opened. I walked back to the Dart. Opened the door. Something was on the seat. Another photo. This time, it was me. 21. In the garage. Holding a wrench. Laughing. He'd taken it. I didn't know he had. On the back. "You became more than I ever taught you to be." I drove until dawn. Desert slowly gave way to mountain edges. The Dart didn't need directions. And I didn't need to ask where we were going anymore. I crossed into New Mexico just after dawn. The road climbed fast, twisting, narrow, flanked by pine and rock. The kind of road that makes you lean forward in the seat, like you're trying to balance the car with your own weight. But the Dart, she didn't flinch. Didn't groan. Didn't hesitate. It was like she knew every curve. Like she'd driven it before. Or like he had. I rolled the window down. The morning air was cold, but clean. Honest. You don't get that kind of cold in the Midwest, just the biting kind. This was different. This was breath-stealing and soul-scrubbing. I let it hit me full in the face. Somewhere outside Taos, I passed a small cabin nestled against the ridge. Not on the map. Not marked. But the Dart slowed. Turned. Gravel crunched under her tires as we pulled into the drive. And then I saw him. Old man. White beard. Sitting on a porch swing, bundled in a denim coat. He looked up when I stepped out of the car, and for a moment I thought maybe I was seeing him again. Walter. A future that could have been. A version aged by forgiveness, not failure. But this wasn't him. It was someone else. Yet somehow, connected. "You must be his boy," the man said. His voice was gravel soaked in bourbon. But gentle. I stopped at the bottom of the porch steps. "You knew him?" He nodded once. "Long time ago. We passed through here, 80 or 81 maybe. Your mom was pregnant." He was scared shitless. I blinked. He chuckled low. He didn't say much, but you could see it in his eyes. Like he was being chased by something inside his own ribs. He pointed to the swing beside him. I sat. The porch creaked. He left something here, the old man said. Told me, if a young man ever came driving that car, to give it to him. He stood, slow, deliberate, and disappeared inside. Came back with a small envelope. Yellowed. Worn. He handed it to me without a word. Just nodded once. And walked back into the house. The envelope was light. My name, written in his hand. To Daniel. When the road brings you back to me. I sat with it in my lap for a long time. Didn't open it. Couldn't. Not yet. I tucked it into my jacket pocket and watched the mountains wake up. Fog peeling off the ridges like breath. Birds skimming low over the trees. I wondered what he'd felt when he sat here, all those years ago. If he'd made peace. If he thought about turning back. If he'd almost stayed. Back in the Dart, the sun visor was down. I don't remember leaving it like that. I reached up to flip it. And another photo fluttered out. A shot of the cabin. Same swing. Same porch. Only this time, he was sitting on it. Holding me. I couldn't have been more than a year old. My mother was standing nearby, half smiling, like she didn't know whether to believe in the moment or brace for it to pass. On the back, in the corner. Almost made a home of it. The Dart started again with the softest touch. No roar. Just a low hum, like she was carrying something sacred now. Like I was. The road wound down the mountain in slow, aching spirals. Sun climbed. Fog lifted. And the world got quiet again. Somewhere in the middle of the desert, I pulled over. No signs. No landmarks. Just space. I opened the letter. His handwriting was shaky. Older. But still him. Danny. If you're reading this, it means you went further than I ever did. That alone means I did something right, maybe not much, but enough. I don't know what you're looking for. I don't know what I left behind. But I hope the road gave you something I couldn't. The car wasn't the dream, son. The dream was movement. The car just carried it. I was afraid you'd hate me. For the silence. For the days I came home late smelling like beer and rust. For never telling you how hard it was to hold a man together from the inside out. But if you're here reading this, I guess you saw me anyway. Thank you for driving. Dad. I folded the letter. Didn't cry this time. Just let the silence hold me for a while. Then I whispered to the wind. I saw you. And for a second, I swear the Dart exhaled. That night I crossed into Arizona. Somewhere along a red dirt highway, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw the stars behind me. I didn't feel haunted anymore. Just guided. Arizona doesn't ask who you are. It just shows you what's left when everything else has burned away. The sky was bruised with clouds when I crossed into the state. Not the usual wide blue. The sky felt tight. Charged. Like it remembered things. The kind of sky that demands truth. I followed the Dart's quiet pull through winding stretches of sun-cracked asphalt until I hit a road with no name. The kind of road that shouldn't be paved but was, just barely. Sagebrush clawed at the edges. Jackrabbits darted through the heat shimmer. Then, up ahead, a faded wooden sign, leaning sideways, carved with 4 letters. Kale. No state line map had it. No GPS lit up. But the Dart slowed again, like it recognized the bones of this place. A ghost town. One main street. Boarded up windows. Gas pumps fossilized in rust. A saloon with no doors. Windmills spinning slowly without purpose. It didn't look dead. It looked forgotten. And that's not the same thing. The Dart parked itself in front of what used to be a post office. The windows were dust-painted. A single metal mailbox stood out front, still upright, still functional. There was something inside. A postcard. Edges curled. Ink smeared. But the message was still legible, like time had spared it out of guilt. It wasn't addressed. Just written. Ruth. I sat in this place tonight, thinking maybe I'd just stay gone. You were asleep in the car. Belly full with Danny. I almost left the keys on the dash and walked into the dark. But then I heard you whisper something in your sleep. You said we need you. And I broke. Right there in that front seat. Not the angry kind of break. The holy kind. I drove back before morning. You never knew. But I did. I made it one more day. Because of you. The signature was missing. Maybe he never finished it. Maybe he couldn't. I sat on the porch of the old post office for a long time. The wind kicked up dust, spinning it into little storms that went nowhere. I looked at the postcard in my hands and imagined him, 28, scared, young, already weighed down. Sitting in this exact spot. Maybe crying again. Maybe shaking. But still there. Still trying. The first drop of rain hit the back of my hand like a warning. The storm rolled in fast. Desert storms always do. They don't build. They arrive. Thunder cracked. The air turned electric. And the past cracked open with it. I don't know how to explain what happened next. But I'll try. Because this was the moment I'd been driving toward without knowing it. The sky split, and the wind roared, and suddenly, I was in the garage again. But not mine. His. Same lighting. Same tools on the wall. Same oil-stained floor. But this time, he was there. Not younger. Not older. Just him. Walter. Middle-aged. The version of him that cried the night I first heard what it meant to be a man with too much on his shoulders and not enough language to carry it. He didn't see me. He was hunched over the engine. Breathing hard. Mumbling to himself. I don't know what else you want from me. I'm trying, all right? I'm trying. He slammed a wrench against the hood. Metal rang out like thunder. Then silence. He gripped the fender. And began to cry. Not the soft kind. The full-body sobbing. The gasping. The kind that drags itself out of a man's throat like it's been waiting years to be acknowledged. And then, he spoke. Danny, if you ever hear me. I'm sorry. He said it to the air. To no one. But maybe. To me. The storm outside cracked so loud it shook the walls. I closed my eyes. And when I opened them, I was back in the dark. Windshield streaked with rain. The postcard in my lap. But the garage didn't leave me. It was inside me now. That moment. That man. That truth. I whispered. I forgive you. And this time, I meant it. The rain eased as I pulled out of Kale. No GPS. No road signs. Just instinct. The road felt lighter now. Like it had unburdened itself. Like he had. And maybe I had, too. That night, I found a payphone outside an old diner. I don't know why, but I called my sister. She didn't pick up. But I left a message. Hey. It's me. I'm on the road. I'm learning things. About him. About myself. I think he really did love us. He just didn't know how to survive it. I'm heading west. I'll call again. I hung up. And stood there a long time. Just breathing. Back in the dark, a new cassette waited on the seat. No label. Just a single song. Don't let the sun go down on me. I laughed. I cried. I turned the keyless ignition. The engine purred. And I drove west. California didn't feel like arrival. It felt like exhale. I crossed the border just before sunset. The highway shimmered with gold light, casting long shadows of the dart's frame beside me. It was still running like a dream, or maybe like a memory that didn't want to end. I passed through the Mojave. Then Barstow. Then the mountains gave way to the coast, and suddenly the air changed, salt on the wind, the scent of eucalyptus and old driftwood. The ocean was out there. Waiting. But the dart didn't take me to the water. Not yet. She veered north instead, through winding canyons and fog-draped cliffs, until we reached a little town tucked into the hills. One of those places without a skyline, just old shops and wildflowers growing through cracked sidewalks. And there, at the top of a long dirt road, was a cabin. Small, weathered, but alive. A wind chime whispered against the porch rail. The steps sagged in the middle. The screen door hung slightly off its hinge. And I knew, without question, this was where he meant to end up. Not just someday. Originally. Back in 1980, with my mother pregnant and the dart gleaming with hope, this was the place he circled in his mind. This was the finish line that life, and fear, and bills never let him reach. There was a note on the door. Yellowed from sun. Pinned under a smooth stone. My name. Not Daniel. Danny. If you made it here, then you already know. This was where we were going. Where I wanted to raise you. Where I thought I could become someone new. But I never got past the trying. I buried the dream the same way I buried the car, quietly, slowly, with both hands. But you resurrected it. You drove every mile I couldn't. You gave breath to something I couldn't finish. Come inside. The door wasn't locked. I stepped in. The air was still. The kind of stillness that only lives in places waiting for someone to return. There wasn't much. Just a table. 2 chairs. A bedroll in the corner. An old radio. A single photograph on the mantel. It was me. 16. On my birthday. Laughing, frosting on my cheek, holding up a sparkler in the garage. I didn't know that picture existed. But he had kept it. Even when he didn't keep much else. I sat at the table. The wood warm from sunlight. There was a journal left open beside a pack of cigarettes. I recognized the handwriting. His again. Tight. Slanted. Weathered. The last page read. I thought the car would save me. I thought the road would change me. But all I ever needed was to be seen. And now I have been. I stayed the night in the cabin. Built a fire from old pine logs. Cooked canned beans on a rusted stovetop. Slept with the window cracked, the ocean air brushing my face like a promise. And I dreamed. This time, it wasn't the road. It wasn't the dart. It was him. Sitting across from me at the table. Not young. Not broken. Just a man. And he said, "You gave the dream legs again." I woke up before dawn. Stepped outside. The dart sat there, quiet in the morning light. Still. Waiting. But this time, I knew. She was done. We were done. The drive was over. I sat on the porch and wrote a letter. Didn't know who it was for, maybe for him, maybe for me, maybe for whoever finds this place next. He wasn't perfect. But he kept trying. Every bolt he turned, every road he never finished, it was all for love he didn't know how to show. I forgive him. I carry him now, not like a weight, but like a compass. Then I walked to the car. Opened the trunk. Took out the last thing he left me. The wrench. The one he used on that dart every night while the world told him no. I set it on the front seat. Closed the door. And walked away. The engine didn't start. The radio didn't play. But I swear, just as I turned the corner, I heard a soft sound behind me. Like breath. Like goodbye. I didn't drive home in the dart. I left her there, at the edge of that coastal road, just past the pine line where the sky breaks open into sea. I left the wrench on the seat, the keys she never needed resting in the glove box like bones finally laid to rest. She was never just a car. She was a vessel. A confession. A man's second chance at being understood, given not by time, but by a son who kept listening, long after the words ran out. I rented something newer for the ride back. Something gray and forgettable. The kind of car that hums without history. No creaks. No stories. But in the rearview mirror, I carried more than luggage. I carried him. Not as the father who failed. Not as the ghost who cried in the dark. but as the man I came to know, mile by mile, silence by silence. Walter Davis. My father. Not perfect. Not lost. Just human. The house looked smaller when I returned. Yard overgrown. Paint chipping around the windows. The garage door sagging a little more than before. But I stood in front of it for a long time. Hand on the frame. Listening. It didn't creak this time when I opened it. Didn't groan like it used to. Just opened. Like maybe it was waiting for me now. Inside, nothing had moved. The workbench still held the dented tin can full of screws. The shelves sagged under half-used bottles of oil and rusted tools. The space smelled like memory. Like skin and smoke and steel. And I stood in the middle of it and said quietly, I saw you. I heard you cry. I never forgot. I opened the box where I kept what was left of him. A belt. A watch that stopped ticking sometime after the funeral. A packet of photos rubber banded together, edges curled like they'd been breathing in sorrow for years. And the last cassette. Unlabeled. I hadn't played it yet. Didn't dare. Not until now. I slid it into the old tape deck on his workbench. Press play. At first, nothing but the gentle hum of tape turning. Then, his voice. Cracked. Older. Speaking like he didn't know if anyone would ever hear it. Danny, if this ever finds you. I know I wasn't always easy to love. I know I made silence a language and called it strength. But God, I tried. I loved you. Even when I didn't know how to say it. Every time I opened this garage, it was for you. I just didn't know how to let you in. I sat down on the old stool. Same one I'd seen him cry on when I was 8. And for the first time in years, I didn't cry. I smiled. A small one. Because I finally understood. That night wasn't the moment he broke. It was the moment he became real. And now? He didn't need fixing anymore. Neither did I. I left the cassette playing as I stepped outside. Morning light bled across the lawn. Birds chirped. Somewhere down the street, a lawnmower growled to life. Normal things. Good things. The kind of things he would have missed. The kind of things I'll remember for him. Later that day, I started rebuilding the garage. Cleaned it. Sorted the tools. Hung his picture above the workbench, not the one where he looked posed, but the one where he was mid-laugh, a smudge of grease on his cheek, caught by accident. I built a shelf for the old tapes. Framed the map he drew. Put the photo of the Dart, parked by the coast, right beside it. And I left space. For my things. For whatever comes next. Because this wasn't just his garage anymore. It's ours. I still think about that sound. The first time I heard him cry. How it changed me. How it followed me. But now, it doesn't haunt. It echoes. Like music in an old cathedral. Not pain anymore. Just proof. That he lived. That he felt. That he tried. And now, when I close the garage door at night, I don't hear sorrow. I hear silence. Not empty. Not sad. Just peace.